Hey guys, I'm Alpha Podspot and welcome to week 37 of the 2018-2019 Premier League review. If you are new to the series, what we do is we take a look at the past set of Premier League results, we take a look at the Premier League table, and we finish off by looking at the top goal scorers. So here are the past set of Premier League results. These games were played on Friday the 3rd, Saturday the 4th, Sunday the 5th and Monday the 6th of May 2019. Next to the games are their times in this video, so if you want to hear about a specific match, you can just go at the time next to the game and you'll skip out all the other crap. But without further ado, let's get into our first match. We start with Cardiff versus Crystal Palace. Cardiff knew that they needed to win to stay up, so it wasn't great when they went behind just before the half-hour mark as Wilfried Zaha put Crystal Palace in front. Lovely finish from the winger. He started the move off by turning his man, playing it out wide to Andros Townsend. Townsend stands his man up before giving it back to Zaha right on the edge of the box. Zaha shifts it onto his right foot, fools everyone by thinking he's going for the bottom right corner, but instead pulled it back across goal and into the bottom left for his 10th goal of the season. But Cardiff levelled it up just 2 minutes later as Martin Kelly put the ball into his own net. Cardiff spread it wide as Josh Murphy gave it to Leandro Bacuna just inside the Palace half. He takes it forward before swinging it into the middle, and from there it's just a big mix-up. I don't know whether the keeper doesn't give his defender a shout or if Kelly just doesn't hear him, but Guaita comes for it. Martin Kelly touches it because if he doesn't then the striker's going to get it, but the fullback ends up touching it past his keeper and he can only watch it roll into his own net. But Crystal Palace retook the lead in the 40th minute as Michy Batshuayi put Palace back in front. Good football from them, but it can be considered far too easy from a defensive side. Zaha started it on the wing. He chopped inside his man before giving it to Andros Townsend. Townsend found Batshuayi in the box, and then it's a 1-2 between Batshuayi and Ayew to leave Batshuayi free, and in a 1-on-1 in the box, and the Belgian made it count as he slotted it into the bottom corner. And Crystal Palace doubled their lead in the 70th minute as Andros Townsend got a goal that would relegate Cardiff. Poor from Cardiff again though, as the Palace winger picked the ball up just inside the Cardiff half and he was allowed to run. He sprints down the line before drifting inside, making his way across the top of the box and drilled one into the bottom corner via the post. But Cardiff would get a consolation goal in the 90th minute as Bobby Reid got it. It's just too little too late for them. The ball fell nicely to Reid just inside the area and he curled an effort into the bottom right corner. Like I said, just too little too late. And that's how the game ended as Cardiff became the third and final team to be relegated from the Premier League. It also adds an unwanted record to the list for Cardiff as the Bluebirds became the first team to play in more than one Premier League season and be relegated every single time. They were favourites to go down as soon as they were promoted last season, and the fact that they've made it this long will be a shock to most people because not one person in that Cardiff side can be accused of a lack of effort. Already safe and not much more to play for Palace, they seemed like it would be a good match for Cardiff to possibly take advantage of a Palace side that could have had their minds on their holidays, but Palace have a fantastic away record. And their away form is the second best in the league. Zaha and Townsend were always threatening and constantly took it wide to stretch that Cardiff defence, and it was an assured performance with attack and promise that bodes well for next season, whereas Cardiff will now look ahead to next season as they make an instant return to the Championship. And we move on to Newcastle versus Liverpool. Liverpool took the lead in the 12th minute as the player of the year Virgil van Dijk opened the score, and just poor defender from Newcastle. Corner was swung in by Trent Alexander-Arnold. The Newcastle defenders are all over the shop. A defender falls over. No one's marking Van Dijk, which is criminal, and Van Dijk was as free as a bird to head home from 6 yards out. But Newcastle levelled it up in the 20th minute as Christian Atsu got the equaliser. A bit scrappy. A ball was floated into the Liverpool box. Trent Alexander-Arnold gets under it, heads it behind him to Matt Ritchie. Ritchie fires it across goal to Rondon. Rondon shoots. Trent Alexander-Arnold uses his elbow to block it, so more than likely he would have been sent off, but it came back to Atsu and took the rebound home. And if Atsu didn't score, Trent would have been sent off, but because he did score, Trent technically didn't deny a goal scoring opportunity. Well, he didn't deny a clear goal. But Liverpool retook the lead in the 28th minute as Mo Salah put Liverpool in front for the second time in the match. 2 goals, 2 assists for Trent Alexander-Arnold. He starts the move by throwing the ball into Danny Sturridge. Sturridge was forced into the corner and it looked like there was no way out, but Sturridge does well to backheel it past 2 Newcastle defenders back to Trent, and he whipped the ball in right to Mo Salah, and the Egyptian swept a volley home into the bottom left corner. But Newcastle levelled it up 10 minutes into the second half as Solomon Rondon got Newcastle's second equaliser. He was looking lively all game. He always looked like putting one away, and it's a lovely finish from him as well. Ki Sung-Yong whipped the corner in. It was headed away only as far as the edge of the area. Javier Manquillo heads it back in, and peeling away from his man was Rondon, and the Colombian ripped the volley straight into the bottom right corner. But Liverpool took the lead for the 3rd time in the match in the 85th minute as Divock Origi came in clutch for Liverpool again this season. It comes from a free kick that I've seen people say wasn't a free kick. Are you dumb? Fabinho literally gets punched in the back of the head for one. And not just that, Fabinho doesn't go down from the punch, and then Richie continues to nip away at the heels. It's clear as day. Free kick in a crossing position, Xherdan Shaqiri took it, whipped it into the middle, and getting up in front of Jamal Lascelles was Divock Origi, and the Belgian flicked his header past the keeper. And that's how the game ended, as Liverpool hold on to make sure that the Premier League title will be decided on the final game of the season. Rafa, I have some good memories of you. That 2005 final is still my best footballing memory, but why you got to do this? Why did you try? Newcastle are safe, but in their final home game of the season, they wanted to put on a show for their fans, and they did just that by pushing the title contenders all the way to the final whistle. Solomon Rondon was a pain in the arse all night, and will always look like scoring, and after Mo Salah was taken off with a head injury that required him to be stretchered off, it looked like that injury took the wind out of Liverpool's sails, but they responded yet again, kept going to the final whistle to pick up the win. Newcastle fans will be a bit disappointed with the result, but not with the performance. They spent the entire match chanting for Benitez. They clearly want their manager to renew a contract, but if that fat bastard Mike Ashley doesn't put his hand in his pocket and allow Benitez to spend, then maybe it's time for Benitez to move on, and if he does leave, Newcastle will do well to find a better manager than Benitez for the position that they're in. And we move on to Chelsea versus Watford. Tight first half of this one, no team could find the breakthrough, but Chelsea started the second half quickly and got a goal in the 49th minute as Ruben Loftus-Cheek broke the deadlock. Corner for Chelsea on the right hand side, Eden Hazard took it short to Pedro. Pedro gave it straight back to Hazard. He cut inside his man before standing across up towards the back post, and Loftus-Cheek was there to meet it and nod the ball home. And Chelsea got a second just 2 minutes later as David Luiz doubled Chelsea's lead. Again, it comes from a corner on that right hand side for Chelsea, and again, it's Eden Hazard with the assist. This time he doesn't play it short and instead floated it into the middle. It's about 10 yards out from goal, and you can see the Afro getting closer and closer to the ball as the Brazilian defender rose highest and put a bullet header past Ben Foster. And Chelsea got a third in the 75th minute as Gonzalo Higuain put the game to bed. A bruised Jorginho started the move as he played it up to Higuain. He has his back to goal and gives it out wide to Pedro. There's no press on the Spaniard at all, and Pedro literally stopped and evaluated his options. Higuain made a run behind the defence. Pedro picked him out, and the Argentine dinked it over the keeper and into the back of the net. And that's how the game ended, as a team in the top four finally won a game, and Chelsea leapfrogged their London neighbours Tottenham and up to third, and as Arsenal lost later on in the day, Chelsea confirmed their place in the top four and Champions League football next season. There were a few boos at Stamford Bridge at half time, and whatever Sarri said in the dressing room worked, because after a sluggish first half, Chelsea came flying out for the second half and got 2 quick goals. Watford's hopes of a 7th place finish were already over after Wolves' win on Saturday, and they will now have to beat Manchester City in the FA Cup final if they are to qualify for Europa League next season. Watford had their chances, Deulofeu again being a threat for Watford. Kepa made a fantastic save in the first half to keep the game goalless, and Watford's game was summed up when a late header by Isaac Success was ruled out after hitting his own teammate on the way in. And Chelsea continued their unbeaten home record against Watford, an unbeaten record that stretches all the way back to 1986. And we move on to West Ham versus Southampton. West Ham took the lead 17 minutes into the match as Marko Arnautovic got his first goal since January. He's been in poor form in the second half of the season ever since he was linked with a move to China in the winter window. He seems to have dropped, but the Austrian will be glad to get back in the goals, and it came from a Southampton mistake. Jan Valery gave the ball away to Mark Noble, and Mr. West Ham drove forward, played a through ball up to Arnautovic, and he placed it into the net past Fraser Forster. And West Ham doubled their lead in the 69th minute as Marko Arnautovic got his and West Ham's second of the afternoon. Arthur Masuaku steamed down the left wing with real purpose. He crossed it into the middle. Fraser Forster comes for it, punches it, but ends up punching it right at Arnautovic. It bounces off for the Austrian, and he reacts quickly to nod in from point blank range. And West Ham got a third just 3 minutes later as Ryan Fredericks got his first ever Premier League goal. Lovely move in the middle by West Ham as Fredericks and Jack Wilshere play 1-2, and the ball was perfect for Fredericks to hit one, and he does just that as he fired it past the keeper and into the net. And that's how the game ended, in a match where the two halves couldn't have been more different. Southampton were quiet in the first half, but in the second half they were arguably the better side, but the quick-fire double for West Ham against the run of play took the wind out of the sails. Southampton already secured their place in the league last week, but will rue the missed chances they had in this game, especially in the second half. They were silenced in the first but were revitalised in the second following a half-time substitute which brought on Nathan Redmond, and Redmond was a pain for the home side. He went close within seconds of his introduction following a good run but a rather poor shot. They were getting there, but the momentum was stopped dead by West Ham's goals, and 3 goals in the final 18 minutes was realistically never going to happen. West Ham are still looking for a top 10 finish, and Arnautovic's first goal since the turn of the year went a long way to doing that, but they need quite a few results to go their way next weekend. And we move on to Everton versus Burnley. Everton started the Friday night fixture rapidly all over Burnley, and they took a thoroughly deserved lead 17 minutes into the match as Ben Mee was harshly given the own goal. It's good play by Everton as Dominic Calvert-Lewin has the ball on the right wing. He cuts inside and then it's one touch pass and he gives it to Gylfi Sigurdsson, and he touched it off for Richarlison. The Brazilian then took a shot that looked to be headed in but took a nasty deflection off of Ben Mee's knee that put it out of the reach of Tom Heaton and into the bottom right corner. And Everton doubled their lead just 3 minutes later as Seamus Coleman got the goal. Tom Heaton will feel he could have done better with this one as Lucas Digne has the ball and the fullback lines up an effort from distance. It looks like it moves quite a bit in the air, but still Heaton will feel he could have parried it further away, because what he actually ended up doing was parrying it straight to Coleman, and the Irishman was just about onside as he nodded home the rebound. And that's how the game ended as Everton continued their impressive home form in 2019 as they did all they could to get a Europa League spot, but with Wolves winning on Saturday it was confirmed that Everton's hopes of a 7th place finish were dead in the water. Burnley struggled in front of goal and were short of their best, but will feel annoyed that they didn't have a second half penalty when Matty Vydra was blatantly shoved over by Michael Keane. Burnley worked hard, but for most of the game they look like a team who were already on their holidays. They've got survival, they can't get in the top half, so what have they got to play for? They only managed 5 shots in the entire game and only 1 was on target, and that was easily saved by Pickford, and a comeback never looked on the cards as both teams' season are pretty much over as they've got nothing but pride to play for in the final game. And we move on to Arsenal versus Brighton. Arsenal got the perfect chance to take the lead in the 7th minute as they were given a penalty. It's right on the corner of the box. Nacho Monreal tries to get onto the ball but was brought down by Johan Bash right in front of the ref, and he pointed to the spot. Pierre Aubameyang stepped up to take it, and despite defender Shane Duffy literally telling Matty Ryan where to dive, he ignored him, dived the other way, and Aubameyang put it in the bottom left corner, exactly where Duffy was pointing. But the referee would level up with penalties in the 60th minute as he would give Brighton a penalty as well. The move started on the edge of Brighton's box as they deal with an attack and they just run forward. Solly March was making his way down the left wing, makes his way into the area. There's a tangle of legs and Granit Xhaka ends up tripping him over. No complaints from the Swiss as the ref pointed to the spot. Glenn Murray stepped up to take it, and boy, he's the best striker in the world. What do you expect? Leno was rooted to the spot. Leno was too busy looking at Glenn Murray's beautiful face and he just didn't know where to dive. Murray had him on strings, stroked it into the bottom right corner, and he can stroke me all day long. I love you, Glenn. And that's how the game ended as Arsenal's top 4 hopes realistically came to an end. I say realistically because it'll take a minor miracle for them to get it. Not only do they need to win, they need Tottenham to lose, which might happen because Tottenham have been rubbish recently, and there also has to be a 9-goal swing in favour of Arsenal. So realistically, not going to happen. The early goal should have given Arsenal the desire to kick on and win the game rather comfortably, but in the end, apart from a few times, Arsenal failed to create a lot of clear-cut chances and test Matty Ryan in goal. Suspensions and injuries meant that Stefan Lichtsteiner was in the starting 11 for the first time since February, and it goes to show why. Most of Brighton's attacks came down his side. Solly March was always going patch to Lichtsteiner like he wasn't even there. And Brighton could have won the game if they had more clinical edge as Pascal Gross miscued a strike before Leno clawed away March's header, and with the last kick of the game, if Florent Andone just looked up, he would have left March in a one-on-one position. And with Arsenal's top 4 hopes hanging by a thread, they will set their sights on Unai Emery's favourite competition and hope the Spaniard can win the Europa League for the 4th time as a manager. And we move on to Huddersfield versus Manchester United. Man United took the lead 7 minutes into the match as Scott McTominay made it 2 starts and 2 goals for himself. Lovely play in the middle by United, 1-touch passer from the halfway line all the way up the pitch, and it eventually came to McTominay. The lanky midfielder took a touch away from his man into the middle and hit it towards goal. It's right at the keeper, but he somehow doesn't manage to get it. It pretty much went through Jonas Lorsel and into the net. But Huddersfield levelled it up in the 60th minute as Isaac Mbenza got the equaliser and his first goal for the Terriers. After arguably being at fault for the United goal, it was a great response from the keeper Jonas Lorsel, and he actually gets the assist for it. A United corner was swung into the middle. Scott McTominay gets his head on it, but his header was down and it bounces into the hands of Losel. The keeper looks up and absolutely twats one down the pitch. It looks quite easy for Luke Shaw, but the fullback gets it all wrong and it rolled through to Isaac and Benza, and the forward kept his cool and slotted it through the legs of David De Gea. And that's how the game ended, and although it wasn't a loss, it basically was, because the draw means that Manchester United mathematically will not get top 4 this season and will play in the Europa League next season. And even then they might not get into the group stages, because if Watford win the FA Cup, then Manchester United's pre-season tour will have to be cut short, as they would have to go through qualifiers. They started Alexis Sanchez for the first time in about 2 months, and yet again the Chilean was a passenger, making decent contributions once in a blue moon, and definitely not the contributions he was making at Arsenal. Huddersfield did end a long losing streak here, but did equal some records as they finished their home campaign with just 10 goals scored at home all season, the joint worst in the history of the top division, and also end with 14 home losses all season, and the joint most in Premier League history as well. And we move on to Manchester City versus Leicester. Really tight first half in this one. Neither City teams could get a hold of the game. Manchester City had more of the ball and came closest when Schmeichel clawed an effort off of the line, but Leicester started the second half the quickest, and for the third game in a row, Manchester City just seemed sloppy in possession and were making a lot of unforced errors. It would take a hero to break the deadlock, and in the 70th minute, up stepped the hero for Manchester City as their captain Vincent Kompany scored a belter. Nothing really on for Man City. A corner was just cleared and they're looking to recoup. Emerick Laporte tapped it off to Kompany just inside his own half. He strode forward to about 30 yards out. Everybody's telling him don't shoot. He's like, here, piss off. He twatted one straight in to the top right corner. Postage stamp. Oh days, that was so far in the top corner. And that's how the game ended, as Manchester City ensured that the title race is in their hands going into the final day of the season. They now know that a win will see them win the title back to back, and even a loss could see them win it, but obviously they won't risk that, and they'll go into a game against Brighton, one that they should be winning, and they'll go hell for leather. Again, I found myself saying this a lot over the past month or so, but City are making their fans anxious. Over the past month, they just haven't been playing very well and have had to grind out 1-0 wins in games where they could have gone either way. Leicester were defending well for the match and even were knocking it around City like it was a training match at times. Man City just aren't used to teams going to the Etihad and playing them at their own game, which is exactly what Leicester did. But in the end, it was the Manchester City captain, a loyal servant for the past decade, who put them in prime position to become the first team since 2009 to lift back-to-back Premier League titles. And we move on to Bournemouth versus Tottenham. In the first half, it was all Tottenham for the first 30 minutes or so. They had a few good chances, but were all stopped by young Bournemouth keeper Mark Tavers, who was making his debut. But after the half-hour mark, Bournemouth started to hold their own, and for some reason, Tottenham players just started to lose their heads. Bournemouth should have had 2 penalties and Eric Dyer should have been sent off, but Tottenham would be reduced to 10 men in the 43rd minute as Son Heung-min was shown his first ever red card. It's not what you'd expect from the South Korean, who's normally known for being composed, but here he gives away a foul, and then as Jefferson Lerma was trying to get the ball off him, he just shoves him over, right in front of the ref. He showed him a straight red card. I think it's a bit harsh, but I just don't understand why Son shoved him. And then in the second half, Tottenham made some changes. Eric Dyer, who was lucky to still be on the pitch, was taken off and replaced by Juan Foyth. So it wasn't great when Juan Foyth was sent off just 2 minutes in the second half. The centre-back would have been brought on to shore up at the back, so God knows why he was driving forward like a maniac. A heavy touch takes it away from him. He properly lunges in to get the ball. His right leg comes up about 2 miles over the ball, catches his man right on the knee with his studs. It was nasty, and the ref showed Tottenham their second red card of the match. And then after this, it was all Bournemouth as you'd expect, but they just couldn't find a way through, and as we headed into 4 minutes of added time, it looked like Tottenham would hold on for the point, but in the 91st minute, Bournemouth finally made the 2-man advantage count as they won the game through Nathan Ake. From a corner on the left side, Ryan Fraser swung it in. The Dutch centre-back comes sprinting through, meets the ball on the 6-yard line, and powered his header into the bottom left corner to win the game. And that's how the game ended, as Tottenham again failed to win in this top 4 race. Tottenham have lost 13 league games this season, and they've just been knocked off of 3rd. It was quite possibly the worst preparation for their second leg of the Champions League semi-final tomorrow. Not only going to Bournemouth, a tough place to go, but then having 2 players sent off, which meant that the players would have to work harder, and for that Pochettino wasn't able to rest any of his major players. Well, apart from Son. he'll be pretty well rested for tomorrow. Bournemouth struggled for the first half hour or so, with Tottenham's quality players having their way with the Bournemouth defence, but they were stopped by debutant Tavares in net, who made a string of fine saves and looked confident in and around his box. And in the second half, with the 2-man advantage, Tavares was barely seen. Tottenham were pinned back. They've now lost their last 6 away league matches for the first time since 2006, and that doesn't bode well considering they're away tomorrow night in the Champions League. Whereas for Bournemouth, the assist was Fraser's 14th of the season, which is the second most out of anyone in Europe's top 5 leagues. And finally, we've got Wolves versus Fulham. Fulham had a lot of the ball in this game, but they just couldn't find the net, and belief around the Molineux was starting to fade. But Wolves eventually took a well-deserved lead in the 75th minute as Leander Dendoncker put the home side in front. It was coming pretty much since the first whistle. As usual, good play on the right wing by Wolves as João Moutinho played it down the line to Matt Doherty on the overlap. The fullback then drilled the ball in, and Dendoncker was there at the back post, and he smashed a volley in at the near post. And as the game ended, as Wolves overcame Fulham to avoid a frustrating draw. Diogo Jota went close 4 times. This game was typical of Wolves this season, doing well against the big sides and then struggling against teams in the bottom half, which they did here, as already relegated Fulham gave their fellow promoted side problems. Wolves have now guaranteed a 7th placed finish, the highest for a newly promoted side since Ipswich came 5th in 2001, and it's Wolves' highest ever finish, and they will now be looking for the FA Cup final, as if Manchester City lift the famous trophy, then Wolves will be in the Europa League next season. Alright, so that's all the games I've got for this time. Before we go, let's take a look at the Premier League table and top goal scorers. Start off with the Premier League table. Start with the top 5, and as you can see, Manchester City are in the top after beating Leicester last night. Liverpool is second after a late winner against Newcastle. Chelsea are third and booked a top 4 finish after beating Watford. Tottenham are fourth after losing to Bournemouth, and Arsenal make up the top 5 after being held to a draw by Brighton. Moving on to the bottom 5, and Huddersfield are on the bottom after picking up a point against Manchester United. Fulham are 19th, they lost to Wolves. Cardiff are 18th and became the final team to be relegated this season after losing to Crystal Palace. Brighton are 17th after drawing with Arsenal, and Southampton make up the bottom 5 after losing to West Ham. Moving on to the top goal scorers, and as you can see, Mo Salah is on the top after scoring against Newcastle. However, he was stretching off, so he might not be recovered in time for next week, and if so, he will finish this season on 22 goals and 8 assists. Sergio Aguero is next. To be honest, I actually forgot he was in the starting 11 last night. He stood on 20 goals and 8 assists. Pierre Aubameyang converted a penalty against Brighton to move him into the 20 goals club. He's on 20 goals and 5 assists. Sadio Mane didn't score against Newcastle. He stayed on 20 goals and 1 assist. And Jamie Vardy makes up the top 5. He didn't score against Man City last night, so he stayed on 18 goals and 4 assists. Right, so that is all I've got for this time. If you did enjoy, short, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll be back next Tuesday at 4 PM for the final episode of this season of the Premier League review. Who's going to win the title? Manchester City. There we go, spoilers. If you want to stay up to date about anything we do, it would be best to follow us on Twitter. The link to that is in the description, or it's at @portionofsport_. If you missed the last episode, that'll be on the right hand side of the outro screen, and a link to the channel will be on the left if you feel like subscribing. But anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to. I've been Mark from A Portion of Sport, and I will see you soon.
My mama calls, see you on TV. Sunset shit done changed. Ever since we was on, I dreamed it all. Ever since I was young, they said I won't be no